Hi, this is Mark Birch, and this is the first of a series of videos taking a look at the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and we're going to be starting the revision with Chapter 1. The story of the door crucially begins with the characterization of Mr. Utterson, and before we consider anything else, we really ought to think about the significance of the name Utterson. As well as being a relatively common Scottish name, Utterson's interesting in that it can be broken down into two morphemes. The first of these is the important one. Utter can mean to speak, which is potentially ironic given the taciturn nature of Mr. Utterson. The second meaning of utter is complete or extreme, as in utter devastation. But for Utterson, the only kind of extreme behaviour that he exhibits is that of restraint. He's austere with himself, as it states. Initially, Utterson is presented negatively. He's unemotional, his face never lighted by a smile. He's cold, scanty and embarrassed in discourse, and backward in sentiment, all of which suggest that he's not willing to express his emotions. Given that Utterson provides the narrative perspective, this is actually perfect for Stevenson because the form of science fiction is quite incredible at times. So to provide a character who it focuses on reason rather than emotion gives it that sense of credibility. Stevenson reinforces Utterson's restrained and unemotional characteristics through the quotation, "He was austere with himself, drank gin when he was alone to mortify a taste for vintages, and though he enjoyed the theatre, had not crossed the doors of one for 20 years. Gin was a very cheap and harsh drink, so by drinking it, Utterson was essentially killing off his taste buds, so he would deny himself the pleasure of drinking vintage wines, which were by their nature both pleasurable and expensive. Once again, it's a sign of his restraint. Utterson's also presented as dull and boring in the quotation, lean, long, dusty, dreary. The alliteration of those long initial phonemes can complement the way in which he is seen as so dull. But again, this reinforces the way in which Stevenson is trying to capture someone who's not prone to flights of fancy. This aspect of Utterson's character could link to one of the key themes of the novella, which is that of repression. It was felt important for a Victorian gentleman to repress desires, and this is something, of course, that we see within the context of Jekyll himself. Despite the apparent negative qualities, Utterson's described by Stevenson as also trustworthy, kind and tolerant. He depicts him as somehow lovable, something eminently human beaconed from his eye, and he had an approved tolerance for others. The strength and conspicuous nature of Utterson's goodness and humanity could be evident in the verb beaconed. This metaphor could connote how obvious his humanity is, because a beacon is designed to be easily seen. When Utterson states, "I incline to Cain's heresy, I let my brother go to the devil in his own way," this is a reference to Genesis chapter 4, where, having murdered his brother, Cain states, "Am I my brother's keeper?" And this seems to be Utterson essentially being pleased that he doesn't judge others. Utterson's profession's crucial to his role in the novel. He is respectable as a lawyer, wrongdoing is part of his trade, he's inherently involved in secrecy and is party to a number of important documents over the course of the novel, and as we've just seen, he's non-judgmental and trustworthy. In the simile, his affections like ivy with the growth of time, Stevenson demonstrates once again that Utterson is someone who isn't dependent on emotion and is loyal and trustworthy. Ivy grows slowly, and the loyalty of Utterson's evident in the fact that his friendships are based on how long he's known someone rather than how good that person is. As it states, they implied no aptness in the object. Finally, this might give us a clue as to why Utterson spends so much time with his cousin Enfield. Despite the fact that the two are completely different, with Utterson being reserved and Enfield outgoing, they form a kind of complementary duality, something that parallels that of Hyde and Jekyll.
Created using Powtoon.